Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now today what I wanted to try and do in as easy a format as I possibly can, hence my brand new whiteboard here, is show you an easy way to understand everything we need to know about soil life. Because if we can get that bit sorted out, your gardening tasks are going to be so much easier, and you're going to spend less time on all the hard work and more time on enjoying your efforts of your labours. So whether that's picking your produce or picking the flowers and putting them in your house. The thing is, if we can get this sussed, which is dead easy, then life is going to be so much easier. So let's get into it. Now, soil life. Well, first of all, there's a teaspoon. And it's often said that within 1 teaspoon of healthy soil, you're going to get anything from 1 million to 1 billion different life forms within that 1 little teaspoon. But rather than getting into too much scientific detail about it, I thought I'd try with my magic pens here to explain it in layman's terms. I'm not saying anybody's stupid or daft, but it's just there's so much stuff out there that really do we need to go through it all. Let's keep it dead simple and therefore have more fun with it. So let's get going. So there's our soil. Lovely. And the thing is that within that healthy soil, we've got all kinds of stuff. So we've got bacteria. Now I could draw loads and loads of dots, but if I stood here and spent my time drawing up to 1 billion dots of bacteria, we'd be here forever. So there it is. Okay. It's not exactly scientific, but hopefully this is going to get the point across to you. Now, within that soil and the bacteria, there's also other stuff. There's things like fungi. Now, there's loads of different words that people use, mycorrhizal and all that kind of stuff. We don't need to know these technical terms, but the fact of the matter is that these, imagine them as threads of cotton, is the best way I can describe it. Now, if you make your own compost and when you turn it over, you sometimes see these little white threads. That's what this stuff is, okay? Now, that can travel anything from 10 meters up to several kilometers. So there's a lot of it, but everything interacts with one another. We need a balance here. Then there's things called protozoas. Again, you might hear that term on a YouTube video, or you might read about it in a book. Basically, they're there to control the bacteria, because we don't want those bacteria getting out of hand. Too much bacteria, you get an imbalance. So they're in there as well. I'll mark those in with a black marker. We'll just dot them about all over the place. So they're helping. Then we've got things like nematodes, which are small round worms. And again, they feed on the bacteria. It's like, it's the circle of life. The smaller the animal gets preyed on by the bigger ones, etc., etc. And on it goes. Nematodes, along with things like arthropods, so we're looking at things like little wood lice, for example, they help with the decomposition process. They also help with the aeration of the soil and allows the water to move through it. And again, keeping everything in check. So that's your soil life. It's really, really rich in all kinds of things. And it looks a mess, just like that wonderful drawing I've just done there. I am a Picasso. Now here's the thing. There's our soil. And there's our lovely soil there below. We get a plant and we stick it in the ground. There it is. Off comes its branches, and it's a healthy looking plant because it's got lovely roots tapping into all that life down in that soil. Now I often use tomatoes as a quote, and as I've got a red pen, there's some tomatoes. They don't look as good as the ones I've got growing in the garden at the moment, but you get my meaning. Now the point is what happens is that all this soil life here is after one thing. It wants some sugar, and the sugar comes from the starches within the roots of that plant, that tomato plant there. And they do a trade. The plant wants the nutrients from the soil life, and the soil life wants the sugars. So that's how it works. And in between all of that that's going on there, they work in harmony. It's a two-way trade. Okay? Very, very simple. Soil life needs, as well as all the organic matter that's in there, it also needs water and it also needs oxygen, just like this plant does. It needs the same. So that's also why we water it. For two reasons, not just for the plant, but also our soil. A two-way trade, okay? Now here's the thing. What happens if we decide to apply a fertilizer to our plants, an artificial fertilizer? Well, what happens is that, let's say, we just take that out of there. What we do is, by adding that artificial fertilizer, we create a barrier between the soil life below and the roots of the plant. Now the thing is about a plant, it's quite a lazy little so-and-so. He's not really bothered. If its food source is there, it's not going to go beyond it. It's just going to stay there. And the trouble with that is that all that soil life can no longer get what it wants from that plant, i.e. the sugar. So what happens next? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? If the soil life can't get what it needs from the plant, it does one of two things. It either dies, which is often the case, because it's life at the end of the day, or they go somewhere else. Now the plant, he don't really care, to be honest with you, because he's still got his nitrogen fixed there, and he's happy to grow, not a problem, until that nitrogen runs out, which it does. So there it all goes. And now you've got a problem, because the problem is there's nothing there anymore. The bacteria is gone, or the soil life is gone, and so is the nitrogen. And this thing starts to suffer. So what do? You put more down. And then it carries on. And that process continues. But in the meantime, there is still no soil life, because it's got no reason to come back to that point, because that plant is not feeding the life there. So it's obvious. Now, at the end of the growing season, you harvest all your tomatoes, and there's your plant there. It's used up all the nitrogen. It's all gone. And here's the next problem that we have. That plant's going to die, okay? So off he goes, wilts away, not much left, all the roots, you know, there it all is. But the issue is that because we killed off that soil life there in the first place, there's nothing there to decompose that. So there it is. You've got a gap. And then what happens? Get a bit of wind and a little bit of rain, the gap gets filled in. There's still no life here. You come along the following year and you want to plant, say, blueberries. There you go, blue pen, loads of blueberries on that, and there's a few roots. But it's got nothing to feed on. So what do? We come along again. I mean, the whole process starts all over. It doesn't solve that issue of the soil life there not being there. So we end up reapplying this stuff, say 2 or 3 times in a growing season, and that costs either pounds or dollars or whatever currency you use in the world. You end up spending more money on getting that to feed that. But the better way of doing it is this. If you have your soil structure and your soil health and it's full of all kinds of things, it is great to get a plant to continue to grow. Now, if I was Picasso, maybe this would be worth a lot of money. Look at all those wonderful colours. The thing about a healthy soil, there's so many variants in it, just like the colours there. Unlike the one colour of the fertiliser that was there before stopping this thing from growing. There's all your organic matter in your soil, in your healthy soil. You plant your blueberry and immediately it goes in. And here's the beauty of it, is that by continually adding that once a year, on a regular basis once a year, like we do here, we just top dress our beds with compost, no more than 3 or 4 centimetres, which is, what, that? Not a lot, is it? We put it all on there. That blueberry's happy. The soil life is happy because they're still interacting with one another. You've regained your two-way trade, okay? And you're not spending any money on fertilizers at all. Also, when it rains, the water comes down into that. Your organic matter in there holds on to that water, so you're less likely to be watering as often as you would do before. Even more blue. Look at this. This is becoming a work of art. But the point is, you've got a soil that's being aerated with the oxygen, for the oxygen coming down. You've got the rain going in there. The soil life is looking after one another, and it's helping us get a better abundance of the crop that we're after. And we're not spending money on fertilizers, so we're saving ourselves a bloody fortune. Did that make sense? It's pretty basic, I get, but here's the thing. It's so simple. How do we get organic matter? Well, there's 2 ways of doing it. We can make our own compost, and I'm going to show you in the next video how I do mine here and what goes into it. And also, we can look at the plants that we've got in our gardens and see how we can utilize those. Because I've done a couple of experiments on some new beds this year, which involves things like beans that help fix nitrogen. And that again is going to be part of the composting video that's coming up soon. But the overall message I want to try and get across to you is pretty straightforward. And that is, if we understand our soil, and concentrating, hence the lack of speech, if we concentrate on looking after our soil and understanding how it works, then I think I'm going to give him a red tie, like so. It isn't difficult to learn how to look after our soil. Once we understand how it works, it's dead easy to do. And the whole thing is that it makes life a whole lot easier. Take care, I'll see you soon.